All right. Well, the last time she was on here, there was so much more we wanted to talk to her about. We invited her back in. How is it that university students arrive in her classroom unaware of the fact that Canada allowed slavery for 200 years? Charmaine Nelson joins me now in studio, art history professor in the Department of Art, History, and Communication Studies at McGill. Charmaine, good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's great to have you back.
Thank you.
What's the latest, by the way? Last time we talked, has anything changed in your realm where you're like, hey, progress?
Well, progress for me, because as professors, the summer is our big moment to get research done. So I'm going to be heading to Ottawa soon to look in some archives of a particular slave owner who owned at least 2 enslaved men in Quebec City. Wow. And this is the type of thing that's really...
What time? When was this?
The period I'm looking at is the 18th century. And I'm looking at a couple of men, Thomas Gilmore and William Brown, who are really interesting too, because they founded the Quebec Gazette. And unlike most slave owners were trying to prevent enslaved people to learn to read and write. And this is like across the Americas, Canada to Argentina and the Caribbean. You did not want enslaved people to learn to read and write. Why? Because it's a form of resistance and
a form of power.
Thank you. Knowledge is power. So they, on the other hand, were having problem with the French-Canadian lads who they were hiring to work on the press, who would be trained and then go off for higher wages because they're free people. So they wrote to their former employer and mentor, William Dunlop, who lived in Philadelphia, who was the Postmaster General of Philadelphia. And by the way, people think that he might have been the nephew of Benjamin Franklin. And
Benjamin Franklin has...
So very deeply connected to the press. Right? So they write to him and say, help us out. And here's the objectness of the enslaved person. They write and say, send us a Negro boy. They don't say send us a Negro boy and his mother and his family. They know they're asking for a child to be separated from his kin, from his world, right? And they very specifically, they're very savvy. They understand the networks of shipping because they say, we know you can get one to us from New York City or Philadelphia, and we know you can get him here by the early fall. And they say, by the way, make sure he's country born. So they're asking for a so-called Creole. And Creole back in the day meant anybody born in a colony. So not an African-born person. And why are they doing this? Because there's a perception among slave owners that people born in Africa who remember their freedom are what?
That's
more resistant.
And if all you know is a life of being a slave, you're much less resistant to it.
That was the theory, right? Not always true, because people running away too were so-called Creoles.
Everyone wants freedom at the end of the day, right?
Thank you. So they ask for a Creole Negro boy, but they also ask for him for him to send someone who's had the smallpox. So this is how much they're intent on. They want someone who's going to live through the next epidemic. Okay, and they say, by the way, insure him before you put him on the ship. Meaning what? Enslaved people were cargo. They were things. They were objects, right? You insure him because if he dies en route, you get your money back. So this is the baseness and the objects, and these are people who are in the space that becomes this is Quebec under the British when they're doing this. So we as Canadians, this is our history too. We have to understand what it means that we treated people of African descent and Indigenous people in this way as objects.
You mentioned you're going to Ottawa.
I'm going to Ottawa to look at the ledgers that they left behind.
So take me through that process about discovering this. You're talking now, if you're going to the 18th century, we're going back 300 years. Right. So what is the process of tracking it down, finding it, and then verifying all that?
So it's a great question. So here's the thing. So as a scholar, then when I find the slave owner, right? But I'm looking for information about them. I want to understand the mentality and the actions of slave owners and also of the people they enslaved. But here's the sad thing. As researchers, because most enslaved people were not allowed to learn to read and write and had nothing called leisure time. Okay, because your life is just work, endless work, and a lot of the labor you're made to do was dangerous labor. So your mortality rates are really shortened. So when we look for enslaved people, we're often looking through the archives left behind by the people who owned them. And then
so you're skewed, obviously.
Totally skewed. So as scholars, like someone like me, I'm up front. My whole point of doing this research is I'm trying to rehumanize these people who were treated like animals. I'm looking for their stories. But the sad part is I almost always have to go through the stories told by the people who wanted to dehumanize the people who they were holding in bondage. So what am I looking for? So in this case, I am quote unquote lucky in that Brown and Gilmore left a lot of data on how they were running their business. So, for instance, we know that Dunlop back in Philadelphia gave them each a loan of, I believe it was £48 each to start the press in Quebec City. And so they take notes on what they did with that money. So Gilmore goes off to London to buy the press, to buy the type, to buy the paper, to subscribe to newspapers. And then Brown gets on a horse and it makes the ride between Philadelphia and Quebec City and comes here and starts to get the subscriptions. And we know what's interesting. I've already started to look at some of the data. The initial subscription is 143 people, among whom are the governor, right? And also
of the governor
of the colony of Quebec, Murray. And also I'm able to match up the names of slave owners with the names of subscribers, and a substantial amount of those initial subscribers are slave owners, who then go on to put ads in the paper for things like the sale, the auction, and the flight of enslaved people. So my enslaved person ran away. I'm trying to capture them. Here you go. Print this ad.
When did slavery end in Canada?
1833.
1830.
And that's because
by
the British,
decree, by what? Yeah, okay.
The British, great question. So not like a war not a war like in the USA, the Civil War. So it ends in 1865 in the USA because of north winds, thankfully. But in Britain, basically, by an act of Parliament in London, they decree that everywhere in the British Empire has to stop slaving at the same time, which was 1833. And then that opens up the 3 decades of the Underground Railroad. So prior to that, we have to understand.
1833 to 1865.
Thank you, and that's it. And here's the thing. All of us in Canada have been so trained in that. My students tell me they've been learning that since grade 5.
Yeah.
Okay? And then the 200-plus years of slavery, we know nothing about. So let's check it out, people. 30 years, 200 years.
How does it trickle down from the research you're doing now, trickle down to going to be in the classroom, going to be taught? What is the fight there?
Okay, so it's a great question. So here's the trick, though. Here's the sad state of affairs. Yeah. People like me, first of all, I'm the only art historian with a job at a university in Canada who's teaching and actively researching Canadian slavery. Only art historian.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, the majority of people working on Canadian slavery are historians. And then there's someone like George Eliot Clark, who's in the English department at U of T. If you count all of us who actively make a part of our research Canadian slavery, who actually have jobs in the university, who can train MA and PhD students, for instance, and undergrads, there's less than 10 of us. Yeah. Okay, so what's the knock-on effect of our ability to produce more students who go on to be scholars, who make a decision like, I'm going to write a book for the grade 8 class? Yeah. Because a lot of us are writing for academics or for adult lay publics. And that's the trick. So this,
and you need literature. You need books that are going to be
people who are going to write for kids and know how to do that. So this year, actually, in my class, my last year in my class of visual culture of slavery, because I come at slavery through art history, I assigned my students 25% assignment was to write a kid's book. And they were afraid, can I tell you? Because I said to them, do not mess this up, especially in the imagery. Do not give me stereotypes. Yeah. Right? And also don't dumb down. How do you not dumb down the content and lie about how horrible slavery was, but make it palatable for a 10-year-old?
That's right. Right. You've got to, when you think about children's books,
Thank you.
And then you think about our horrible past.
Thank you.
It's hard to do.
How do you do that?
Charmaine Nelson. You come back anytime you want.
Thank you.
You call us next time. You say, I'm coming in today.
Thank you so much.
Charmaine Nelson from the Art History Department at McGill University. Come on back real soon.